Mikey Sherrill of the great state of New Jersey. She served nearly a decade in the United States Navy, leading missions as a helicopter pilot before moving to elected office. Mike Barnicle back with us as well. Governor, good morning. So as we teased and as you sat down and we started chatting to us in the break, you have some new initiatives here about trying to combat rising utility costs in New Jersey, a problem not unique to your state, but certainly one, a densely populated state. You're suffering acutely. Talk to us about, how has this affected Garden State residents and how do you try to make it a little easier?
As I went around the state, we had an affordability crisis. I don't think that's news to anybody, but one of those key drivers of cost was our utility costs. They had gone up by double digits last year. They were set to go up by another double digits this year. And it was largely because between data centers and utility companies and our grid operator, they were making a whole host of decisions, many of them poor decisions, that were not leading to better utility, better grid, but were actually leading to higher costs. But they all made money. They were never left holding the bag, but the ratepayers were. So when I got into office, I declared a state of emergency on utility costs. In the middle of my inaugural address, I stopped it and froze rate hikes with executive orders. We've continued to expand power generation. So we have about 18 new solar and battery storage projects. Just yesterday, I signed legislation to hold data centers and utility companies and the grid operators accountable. And we've just had an independent report put out that said that all of these measures already, just in the first 6 months, will save New Jersey ratepayers about $1 billion.
So let's talk a little more about the AI data centers, because, it's remarkable how the political discourse has changed in the last 6 to 10 months or so, where AI now polls very poorly. People concerned about their jobs, but also concerned about costs and these data centers. But yet, as you sat down here, you're saying, New Jersey's a state with a lot of high-tech innovations. You can't just do away with these data centers. You need them. So how do you strike that balance where they require power, but yet how do you do that without passing those costs on to your average resident?
That's exactly what we set out to do. And I think we have in New Jersey, we have put out the most comprehensive data center plan with guardrails in the nation. Because while, yes, when we want to take on how we are going to cure cancer or Alzheimer's, it's very important to have that computing power. But at the same time, towns should not be left holding the bag. And in too many cases, we were seeing bad data center operators, either with energy usage driving up costs for people, water usage. We were seeing environmental damage. We were seeing just noise pollution, and towns really impacted by that. So that's why we put out these guardrails saying, look, if you're a data center, you have to bring your own power. You have to report to us your power and water usage so we can monitor that. You have to negotiate community benefits, think like a new turf field or a new community center that a town needs. And each town in New Jersey is different. And so they can negotiate that. We're going to help as a state do that. You have to build with good union labor and really bring jobs to the area. So in this way, we are giving towns the ability to make decisions for their towns in a way that makes sense to them, and at the same time provide those guardrails as we move forward with this computing power that we need to drive the economy.
Utilities in every state have unusual political clout in the legislatures. In your state, last week, for instance, horrendously hot temperatures throughout. Have you been able to do anything about shut-off notices to people during periods of unbelievably hot weather or unbelievably cold weather, especially the elderly, especially, people with very little resources, with a bunch of kids in the house, and they get shut off? That's a death sentence for some of them.
You're exactly right, which is why we've continued our program to not have shutoffs during these incredibly hot months. Anybody who needs that can go to nj.gov to look into that program so they don't get shut off. We've also put forth, and I just signed it yesterday, a program because I've frozen rate hikes. But rates are sort of like the cost per gallon of gasoline. If you use more, your bills are still going to go up. So what we've done is put out for some of our lowest income residents a program where we're going to defray some of the costs. So about $150 over the next 3 months with those really high heat bills. So they'll get about $50 a month off on their utility bills so they can we can keep driving down costs. But really the key here is expanding power generation and holding some of these utility companies accountable. They just haven't invested in the grid in the right way. They've been given sort of a blank check, and so we're holding them accountable.
What's the right way to invest in the grid?
High-end technologies that are both make your grid more resilient, but also are far cheaper than what they've replaced so far. And so we need a more resilient grid. We've had incredible weather in New Jersey. I mean, we haven't even seen some of this stuff even in Superstorm Sandy. We're talking about historic snowstorms. We're talking about a historic heat dome, and then 85-mile-per-hour microburst in the state, and then flooding in Camden. I was just down there yesterday. I said, oh, is this compared to Sandy? They said, this is worse than Sandy. So we need a resilient grid.
Governor, let's turn to politics now. Your win last year, as well as the win of Governor Spanberger in Virginia, were sort of hailed among Democrats as a victory for sort of the moderate wing. We're seeing this year more progressive candidates have success in a number of states. And, we're seeing a debate. We're seeing it in Maine, for instance, a progressive populist was surging to the nomination, Graham Plattner, now, of course, facing a variety of scandals. So two-part question to you. What do you believe candidate Plattner should do? And then secondly, what is your make of the sort of the big tent issue here for Democrats, where there's real internal debate about just how progressive do you want to be?
I think candidate Plattner needs to have left the race yesterday and become ex-candidate Plattner, because it's too important here. We had a saying on the Hill about Susan Collins. She was always there when we didn't need her. That is not these times. We need people who are going to fight when it matters, not when it doesn't. And that's why Maine is so incredibly important as we work to take back a majority in the Senate. So he needs to get out right away. As far as, I constantly, and I've heard this from day one, and there's always this, oh, is it moderates? Is it progressives? And I don't, quite frankly, I think like most Americans, I'm not sure I see myself as in either one of those camps very comfortably. What the American people want is somebody who is going to fight for them and take on the status quo. And so I think what you're seeing is not necessarily a fight between moderates and progressives, but more of a fight between a new generation of leaders who don't think we've done good enough. So when it comes to our utility grid that's old, as I was talking about, or our housing costs or the affordability crisis, there are all these ways in which the cans have been kicked down the road for far too long. And so what the people want to see is someone who's going to take on these tough problems and solve them. And for too long, people haven't done that. That's what we're fighting for in the Democratic Party.
Well, Governor, we can't let you go without briefly mentioning the World Cup.
Yes.
MetLife Stadium in northern New Jersey has hosted a number of matches so far. I was at one of them, the Brazil-Morocco one. And, of course, has the final in about a week and a half. That's going to be a massive event, an international event with significant security presence. President Trump has said he's coming. Can you talk to us about that significant undertaking?
Sure. Unfortunately, Trump has been a real curse on our American sports teams, from the Knicks to the U.S. team as he got involved, which I had a dream of hosting the U.S. team in the final. That's not to be. Nevertheless, we are just thrilled to be hosting these games. I say we're bringing the world to New Jersey, but we already have the world in New Jersey. We have people from every corner of the planet who live in the state of New Jersey. I think what the World Cup has done is remind people of what a world community we are. 1 in 3 people on the globe will be watching the World Cup final at MetLife Stadium. We are thrilled to host it. I'm going to say something that you've probably never heard before. MetLife Stadium looks beautiful. I know it's hard to believe. You saw it. You saw it. It's hard to believe. I've talked to people who've gone to every stadium. It's open. It's sunny. The pitch looks great. We like the grass. I know they're not going to keep it. We like the grass.
They should.
The pitch looks great.
They should keep the grass.
It's one of the biggest stadiums in our country. It is full of people. The crowds are amazing. The energy is amazing. We are so thrilled to host everyone.
Fair to say, not a beloved venue, but it has pulled off the World Cup well, although we know better than think that success will rub off on the Giants or the Jets. Democratic Governor of New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill, thank you.
Thank
Madam
you.
Governor, for being with us this morning.